Hi, I'm Grey Tiger, and today we continue our series where we look at the unique mechanics of each of the races in Warhammer 2. Last week, we examined the mechanics of the Dark Elves, at both the race and Lord levels. This week, we will explore the Dwarves and see what they have to offer. The Dwarfs are one of my favourite races in Warhammer. It must be the beards. And while I think they have a great roster and playstyle, I think they could certainly do with a bit of an update. I really hope we get a DLC with the Dwarves before Warhammer 3, and see them added to the Vortex campaign, though I think it is unfortunately highly unlikely to happen. In the event that we do have an update for the Dwarves, what could be added? Well, before we get to that, let's start by looking at the mechanics that the race currently have available. The first mechanic is the Great Book of Grudges, which records all of the actions taken against your faction, and tasks the player with completing set missions to obtain revenge and wipe the grudge from the book. Each grudge has a severity level assigned to it, and the total severity value of all active grudges is displayed on the campaign screen. There are 3 tiers to the grudge mechanic, with the first tier providing bonuses for having few or no grudges. Subsequent tiers see the bonuses disappear and negative effects start to affect your faction. The more outstanding grudges, the higher the tier and the worse the penalties applied. Grudges are also tied into the victory conditions, with the short campaign requiring you to have a grudge severity less than 9, and the long campaign requiring that all grudges have been wiped from the book. This is certainly a very fitting themed mechanic for the Dwarves, and I find it quite enjoyable settling grudges with those who have wronged me and my Dwarven brethren. Does this mechanic need improvement? I'd say not really. At most, I would add a small limited time bonus for completing a grudge, with the bonuses received being based on who the grudge is with and the severity of that grudge. Secondly are the runes special items that only Dwarf Lords can obtain. There are about a dozen runes in the game currently that can be applied by a unit prior to battle, much like the banners can. When a rune is applied to a unit, it will gain the rune's effects during the battle. This is quite a limited way of implementing runes, and could be expanded so that runes could interact with the next mechanic we will examine, which is of course the Forge, which allows for the crafting of magic items using the Oath Gold resource and trade resources that are located in regions throughout the map. The items are split into several categories, such as weapons, armor, talismans and enchanted items, and there is also the option to recycle items for a small amount of Oath Gold. This system is based on the Tomb King's mortuary cult, and is a solid addition to the Dwarves, though the crafting of weapons may have been more lore-friendly if the mechanic allowed you to apply runes to existing items to enhance their abilities. What can be done to improve the Forge without a complete rework? How about a new tab added to the Forge that allows you to upgrade existing magic items by applying the runes mentioned earlier? The upgrade would see the rune become part of the item, and would cost Oath Gold depending on the bonuses being applied. It would have limits to the number of runes that can be applied to an item, and the types of runes that could be used. We could even take this further, and have the Recycle tab allow the Dwarves to extract the powers of an item into a rune that can then be applied to a different item. This would give the Dwarves a great way of enhancing their weapons that no other faction would have, and would improve 2 existing systems at once. The final mechanic that the Dwarves have is that of the Underway. This is effectively the same as the movement mechanic that the Beastmen, Greenskins and Skaven have, and simply allows the player to take shortcuts through difficult terrain to get to sections of the map. So, now that we have seen what currently exists, I would usually propose a new mechanic that would be nice to see implemented. Today though, we will take a look at a new mechanic for the Dwarves that I currently have in development. That mechanic is the Hammer of Grungni, which adds a new runic forge system which allows you to combine runes into a rune word at the cost of Oath Gold. The rune word then buffs your armies, much like Grom's cooked recipes buff his armies for a limited period of time. The player will be able to have multiple rune words active at the same time, with a maximum for most lords of 3. There are 3 categories of runes: offensive, defensive and general, with 8 runes in each category. The player can select 1 rune from each category and then spend the Oath Gold to create the rune word. The power of each rune is based on the current tier of your runic forge, with higher tiers having stronger versions of the runes. Once combined, The runes will also trigger a bonus effect, depending on the runes that have been used, and in some cases, the bonus will unlock hidden regiments of renown. In total, there are over 500 possible combinations of effects, with the hidden bonus effects added on top, so there's a lot of room for experimentation. Not all of the runes are available at the start, however, with just the first 2 of each category being enabled, and the other runes becoming active as you progress through the 4 tiers. The player will be able to progress through the tiers by crafting rune words, spending oath gold directly, and possibly by completing missions. What do you think of this upcoming mechanic? Do you have any ideas that could enhance it? Please add your thoughts in the comments below. Now, onto the lords themselves, and what mechanics they currently have to offer. Our first lord is Thorgrim Grudgebearer of Karaz-Akarak. He sadly has no unique mechanic, just some bonuses to diplomatic relations with other dwarves, lower construction costs for military buildings, and less upkeep for Longbeard and Hammer units. What might we give Thorgrim based on his lore? Well, the Book of Grudges is already in the game, so I'm going to propose a mechanic that's not really tied to any specific lore. I would add a renown mechanic, where Thorgrim can gain renown for winning battles and settling grudges, which is represented on a new renown bar. There are several tiers to the bar, with each providing unique bonuses to Thorgrim and his lords in battle. There would also be 4 new battle abilities at various tiers to unlock. The Rune of Ruin would be the first to unlock, and would provide a hex ability that lowers the armor and weapon strength of an enemy unit for a short period of time. The ability would have 2 or 3 charges per battle. The Rune of Restraint would be next to unlock, and would provide a net ability that can hold an enemy unit for a short period. The ability would once again have 2 to 3 charges per battle. The Rune of Regeneration would be the third to unlock. It would provide a brief regeneration buff to all of your units on the field, and would be a single use per battle. The Rune of Ragnarok would be the final to unlock. It would be a single use ability that calls down fire from above onto a large area of the battlefield, causing major damage to any units in its area of effect. This would give Thorgrim some interesting mechanics in battle that no other Dwarven Lord would have. In regards to the runic forge system mentioned earlier, Thorgrim has the unique ability to select multiple runes from the same category, so the player has the option to go all out on offense or defense as they wish. Our second lord is Grombredal, the White Dwarf from Karaz-Akarak. Grombredal has a unique mechanic that sees a dilemma appear every 25 turns, which allows you to choose one of 4 options that will give you a buff for your armies. Each of the 4 options have a variety of effects that are linked to Grombredal, his army, or the region he is currently situated in. It's a very simple system which has little interaction with the player, so how could we improve it? Personally, I wouldn't bother. Instead, I would give Grombredal an additional mechanic where you gain bonuses against factions you have encountered in battle. Each race in the game would have a set of bonuses that can be obtained via Oath Gold. Once you have engaged them in battle, they would become accessible in the new Rivals screen. There would be 4 tiers of unique bonuses against each of the races, and you would only be able to have the effects for one race active at a time. Once a race is selected as the active race, you cannot change it unless you have no outstanding grudges with that race. The more you invest into the tiers against a selected race, the more penalties you will suffer against other races you meet in battle. As such, you would need to balance your upgrades and be wary of obtaining all of the tiers for a certain race if there are any other enemies nearby. From the runic forge system, Grombredal will have the power of all offensive runes doubled, with the power of all defensive runes halved. In addition, the bonus effects applied will also have the chance to be doubled in power. This makes Grombredal quite the effective lord in battle. The third Dwarven Lord in the game is Belegar Ironhammer of Clan Ungrund. He has the unique mechanic of having to reclaim Carrick 8 Peaks, suffering penalties until he does. He also has bonus effects to leadership when laying siege, and has a unique building chain once you have control of Carrick 8 Peaks. Once again, this lord needs a more interactive mechanic. I would add a system based on the resources that your faction has access to, with the resources split into 3 categories: mining, agriculture, and infrastructure. Each category would have a unique upgrade chain that is available once you have access to the related resources. The bonuses would tie into the Carrick 8 Peaks mechanic by being limited in power until you have secured that settlement, at which time the full potential of the bonuses becomes available. As an example, the mining category would have upgrades for increasing armor, weapon strength, armor piercing damage, etc. The player would then be able to spend oath gold to purchase the upgrades as long as the required related resource is secured. Each upgrade would have 2 or 3 tiers that can be purchased, with the higher tiers needing the player to control more regions with the related resource. As for the runic forge mechanic, Belgar has a 25% reduced cost to runewood crafting and access to a 4th runewood slot for additional effects on his armies. Our final legendary lord is Ungrim Ironfist of Karak Kadrin. He has access to a unique building that allows the recruitment of slayers from turn 1 and some bonus effects to reduce the recruitment and upkeep of slayers, along with a 10% speed bonus to all infantry. What mechanic could we give Ungrim? I think something that is a cross between the hunting system that Norse has and Zarkan's Whispers system of Malice Darkblade. Every X number of turns, Ungrim would be issued a quest to search out and slay a beast of legend. Ungrim would be able to have 3 quests active at once and would be compelled to pursue the quests due to his Slayer's Oath, which could be represented with a bar that shows his standing amongst Slayers. A poor standing, ignoring the quests, results in penalties for Slayer units and your public order, with the penalties increasing in severity and scope with the more quests that are ignored. If you complete the quests assigned, then you gain favour with the Slayer community and accrue campaign bonuses, and increased abilities for your Slayers. Completing quests would also provide short-term boosts to Ungrim's army, and add the Beast of Legend to your book of quests, where you can spend Oath Gold to extract an ability from the beast for use by your armies. Once the progress of a beast-related ability is maxed out, then you would also gain the ability to tame the beast, which can then be recruited into your army. I think this would be a nice way to have some larger monstrous units available to at least one faction of the Dwarves. Ungrim's Runic Forge bonus allows him to infuse damage v large effects onto the runewood, with the value applied matching the lowest value of the combined runes. This allows Ungrim to give all units a small bonus v large, which matches the theme of Slayers. Well, that's all of our lords addressed, with upgraded and new mechanics for all, along with a look at the Hammer of Grungni, due for release later in the year. What are your thoughts on the proposed mechanics? Do you have a mechanic that would suit the Dwarves that you would like to see added? Next up is the Empire, a race I've had little experience with, so I have a lot to research before next week. I hope you will join me then. Once again, I would like to thank you for watching the video. As always, I'd love to hear your feedback on this or any of my other videos, and would encourage you to subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter. The support would be greatly appreciated. Until the next video, I'm Grey Tiger, and I'll see you next time.